Hey, sweets. Welcome back to our second health session. Today we have with us a medical student, and she will introduce herself more. Today we'll be talking about infertility, and because this is one of the topics you don't get to hear more of the time people talking about, and it can actually be biased. It's actually one-sided. When people hear infertility, it comes to only women. It
Sure.
has to do with women. But today we have with us Charlene. This is something Charlene is passionate about. And even though she has other extracurricular activities she's into, she's a CEO, she's a medical student, but she will talk more about herself. So Charlene, tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to Healing Africa for the opportunity to be able to share the little knowledge that I have with your audience. I appreciate that so much. My name is Choling Yicho, and I think you already mentioned I'm a medical student and also an entrepreneur. And let me just close it on my nose. I'm also a medical student entrepreneur,
Okay.
and I have been into SRHR activity for quite some time now, since 2017. I've started, so I
Okay.
think it's probably like maybe 7, 8 years now.
Wow.
Firstly started my local NGO, Real Education for Dignity Liberia, which is also an SRHR program, and then later on transition to the entrepreneurial journey that I'm on, which is not even something that I want to start talking about. It's not an easy journey. Yeah, and it is in recent time, out of the years that I've started the whole SRHR, it is in recent time that I already started to get passion for the infertility portion of SRHR. So my initially all of my concentration was on menstrual education, it was on period positivity and those kind of things. But now I feel like we have limited the whole conversation of SRHR to just those things, and we forget to incorporate infertility. And this is something, like you mentioned, is something that people don't get to talk about, and it's a really crucial issue. I think it's something that we should all start now to raise awareness on, which is the journey that I've recently started to see how much you can raise awareness about infertility so that people get to know what it is, and so that we also get to break the stigma that comes with infertility. So I think basically that's just a brief introduction of myself.
Okay, so yeah, that's nice. But talking about infertility, firstly, why do you think it's important that we have open discussions around this topic?
So I think when I was introducing myself, I talked a little about that. It is very important that we talk about infertility because we want to break the stigma and also want to raise awareness. Those are two important points. And if we are able to do those things, there's a lot of improvement that we can make in the life of people that are infertile. So it's really important that we start. And I think it is now. Now is the time for us to start.
Yeah,
Like you can't push it behind and say, okay, you know what? I'll start tomorrow, day
yeah,
after tomorrow. I think it is the time now. We've waited for a long time to talk about this thing, and I don't see any time that is better than now.
yeah. So what is this? Maybe the local person watching will want to know, not the local, but someone who's not a medical student will love to know when you talk about infertility, what are you referring to? What do you mean?
So in a layman English, if you have sex consistently over the period of 1 year with no protection and you do not get pregnant or you do not impregnate someone, you are considered to be an infertile person. So
And okay, so you have sex the entire year with no protection, and you are unable to impregnate someone or someone to, or you are unable to get pregnant or someone impregnate,
yes.
then you are infertile. So what are some of the causes you think that can lead to infertility?
So there's a lot of things that can lead to infertility, right? So when I was defining it, you realize that I say it's either you don't impregnate someone or you're not able to conceive, right?
Yeah.
So it means it's a two-way street. Both male and female can be infertile. That's the first thing we need to consider. So if we already know that only male and female can be infertile, then there are different factors associated with male infertilities, and there are different factors associated with female infertility. So for male infertility, there's a list of factors, right? For instance, your sperm count. So you may be having abnormalities in your sperm count. So there are semen, right? When you ejaculate in a semen, there are sperm. So the sperm cell should have a certain. They should be in a certain number for you to be able to impregnate someone, or for the possibility for you to impregnate somebody to increase. There should be a certain number of sperm count, and then if that is reduced, there's a possibility that you will not impregnate someone. And also mobility of the sperm. So the sperm has a structure, and it has this tail-like or cilia-like portion that help it to be mortar for it to move here and there. So if you have problem with the structure of the sperm cell, it is probably almost impossible for the sperm cell to be able to carry out fertility. So I'm using probably because it's science, right? You can say never, you can never impregnate somebody, because there are some rare cases of things that will happen that you will sit down and ponder about, and you will not be able to think it through. So that could be one other factor too. And for the female, there are some other factors too, like if you have PCOS, if you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, it can also cause infertility. And then there's something called endometriosis, which is like your uterus have a lining in it, right? It's called the endometrium wall. So what happens is that this endometrium cycle in the uterus, but over time, certain factor, certain maybe environmental factor may affect it, and then this particular wall, the endometrium wall, will start to grow outside of the uterus, and that will cause problem for you to not be able to conceive. And then also fallopian tube, right? So we know that we have the two fallopian tubes that are attached to the ovaries. These fallopian tubes where um, fertilization occurs. So if there's an issue with your fallopian tube, I don't care how the sperm cell is mobile enough to swim and to get to the egg, the possibility of it reaching towards the ovary will be very, very slim, because you have an issue with your fallopian tube. So there are different factors, right? But most times it's always good that you make sure you have a good diagnosis of what is causing your infertility.
Okay. And the way you talk about for the men, so you're trying to say that this thing can be both way. It can be men and women. And the way you talk about the men's sperms not being fully structured, I heard about it once where someone said men can be infertile. Someone said, "What do you mean by infertile? They can be infertile." And then they were saying if the person you can have sex and ejaculate, but if your sperm don't have a head or a tail or a body, it will be able to move, it will be able to fertilize the egg when you get there. So all these parts of the sperm, like the head, the body, the tail, they are all important. If you lost one part, then there is a problem because it will affect the other side. So what are some of the misconceptions around infertility when it comes to for women? Let's talk about women. Some of the misconceptions.
There's a lot. There are.
Okay, so let's start with the women's side with misconceptions when it comes to infertility. What are some of the misconceptions around it for women that you know of?
Interestingly, if you hear somebody think, you laugh. So the first thing is, I don't know. Wait, let me see where. But probably this is for the men as well, because they will say, "Oh, it's only a woman that can be infertile." So probably it's a myth from the men and from the woman too. So I think it's a myth that affects both sides. And then another thing again you can say is for the women, it's psychological. Interesting, they will tell the woman say, "Oh, the thing in your hair, that kind of like way, the thing in your hair." But sometimes that is another myth. And then I've heard people say you need to change the food that you eat, because it may be the reason why you. But that could have some level of science backing, because the food we eat usually affect a lot of things in our body. But I haven't come across a research that say directly that oh the food you've eaten or the food that you eat is responsible for your infertility. And also people say the moment you do abortion, for you to born again, it can be hard. So those are myths that I've heard about infertility when it
And
comes to the female.
and talking about the female, then they also mentioned family planning. When you're on family planning drugs and you move on family planning drugs, you can't conceive again. Some people say family planning can give you growth, you can be able to born again. So I know you not working in the hospital per se, but you are a
Sure.
medical
Let
student.
me that
So
back clear.
yeah. So we are not giving professional advice. We're just having a conversation around infertility.
Sure.
So we suggest that before you make any decision while watching this video, you reach out for.
So diagnosis is really, really important. If you are able to find a good diagnosis for whatever that is happening, what we more listed the cause, different causes of infertility. If you are able to find a diagnosis that pinpoint this is the actual cause of your infertility, then it's easier for you to be able to find the solution because you've already recognized the cause. But if you don't know the cause, you literally just finding solution to something that may not even be the problem.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure to find the best facility that you can find. For Liberia, I always recommend GFK. GFK is one of our own facility here. It's the biggest facility and the most preferred facility in Liberia. And trust me, people can underestimate GFK, right? But it has most of the best doctors that the country have. They all work at GFK. And then maybe you can reach out to facilities like Jemali that have the instruments and those kind of material supplies and things like that to get more diagnosis board. And then maybe you can reach if you're somebody that have financial strength, you can go out of the country, but your main focus should be on finding the actual cause of this so that you can be able to find the solution. And then Dr. Kamo also has an infertility clinic that could be something is in our own country that could be somewhere too that you can go to solve this problem. But always find professional help, always find the best. There is something that one of our professors, Dr. Dulupe, can say. He say prevention is simpler, it's easier, it's safer, it's even less costly.
Yeah.
So if you are able to prevent all of these things from happening just by constantly checking yourself, just by constantly like doing the right things, exercise, eating good food, drinking regularly, these simple things can also boost your your health status. And then if you're able to find solution now for your problem, that could also be a plus for you. But it's always often good that you find the right diagnosis for your problem.
Yeah, and talking about diagnosis, so do you mean early diagnosis?
Yes.
Or somebody will say, okay, so I can do another. Some people can actually be afraid of outcome when they go for. So someone is living, someone is currently watching this video. Someone suspect is 20 plus years old, but suspect has never reached out to the clinic to do proper health checkup to know if she's okay, how's her body. She don't even know her blood type. Don't know her blood group, nothing. Her height, weight. In fact, we just like
talking about height.
They had to go from the national Adika that we carry all to the years why they move the level.
I'm talking about height. I feel that my height can change every time. Every time I go to something I height, recently I renew my passport again. My height different from the height all the time. So, and then my photo registration.
Maybe
I'm finally growing also, or I reduce something happening somewhere, right?
But yeah, early diagnosis and doing proper health checkup is good instead of just word of mouth. Don't just hear because someone said if you haven't said consistently for the entire year and you are able to conceive, then you are infertile. Reach out to the hospitals. We have in fertility clinic now, right? In Liberia. We have Jamadi, we have GFK. You can reach out to these health centers, do your proper checkup to know what's the problem. Has a man, has a woman do it, and not just it's woman issue. No, it can't just be woman issue. It's on both sides. So thank you so much for showing light onto this topic. We really appreciate you. This is when people hear SRO, HRO is mostly about menstruation. Now we have, limited it to just understanding your menstrual cycle, your family planning, and we don't get to talk about this thing more often. So we really appreciate today that you've given us your time as a basic person to be here to share, your understanding with us. And we also keep being prayers that as you are passionate about this thing and worried about your own personal awareness on it, we pray that God strengthens you and the message get across there that people can be liberated mentally, that this thing is not just limited on one gender. It can be on both sides. It can be soft, it can be cute, right? It can be cute, and you just need to do your early diagnosis. And don't be afraid of of the hospital. The hospital is your friend. Do your checkup. So was it other be checking what they when you say we don't go check what they be checking my what check, but also that how money.
It's better you brag
Do you the end of it you don't know who you somewhere. How fuck is it? The other person say what they friend doing is that every morning go to estate. They see you looking for you, we see you say that. You know like looking for something to see what what you do your test every month. You can tell. So it's just best that you do, these things after every 6 months or every 1 year, you just go to your proper checkup.
Checkup, sure.
So yeah, thank you. You have any maybe last word you want to share with the audience before leaving?
Thank you so much for having me, Healing Africa. I look forward to seeing more often on your platform for us to discuss this issue, because this is something that we have to talk about.
Yeah.
If we do not start to talk about it, people will still be in those cages of stigmatization. People will still be unaware, and people will be using their misinformation or misconception and spreading it over a higher population of people. And we don't want to see that happening. So thank you for having me, and it was such a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome. So yeah. So if you're watching this video, one of the ways you can help us to get the message out there is to share with someone. So like, subscribe, and please share the video. We don't know how these misconceptions can spread to larger audience. We don't know how the real information are not as out there like the way the false information is. But please, if you're watching this, kindly help us share this video to someone, like and subscribe. Thank you. See you next Thursday.